Today, we're diving into something, well, it's pretty unsettling. We're talking about a personality type that takes what we think of as a good thing, empathy, and flips it, turning it into a weapon.
So, think about it for a second. Have you ever met someone like that? Someone who just gets you on a deep level, but then seems to use that special understanding to get what they want from you. It's a really chilling thought, right? And the thing is, it's not just some movie villain trope, it's a real psychological profile.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll tackle this whole empathy paradox. Then we'll get into the science behind this new personality. We'll compare it to other types, look at what they actually do, and wrap up with some tips on how to deal with them.
Okay, let's jump right in. The empathy paradox. You know, we all think of empathy as this amazing positive thing. It's what connects us. But what if it's not inherently good? What if it's just a tool that can be used for good, yeah, but also for, well, for control?
So, to really get this, you have to know that empathy isn't just one simple thing. It's got two main flavors. First, there's cognitive empathy. That's the head part. I understand how you feel. I can see it from your perspective intellectually. Then there's affective empathy. That's the hard part. I feel what you feel. I'm literally resonating with your emotion. And trust me, this distinction is everything when it comes to the dark empath.
So where did this whole dark empath idea even come from? Well, it's not just something made up for a blog post. No, this comes straight from scientific research that uncovered a really surprising new mix of personality traits.
Okay, so picture this. It's 2020, and a group of researchers are digging through data from almost 1,000 people. They were looking at how empathy lines up with some, let's call them darker personality traits. And what they stumbled upon was so unexpected, it basically created a whole new category. But before we get to the big reveal, we need to talk about something called the dark triad. Sounds intense, right? It's basically a cocktail of 3 not-so-great personality traits. You've got narcissism, that's all about ego and feeling superior. Machiavellianism, these are the master manipulators. And psychopathy, which is about being cold, callous, and antisocial. The one thing they were all thought to have in common, a massive lack of empathy. But here's where it gets wild. The study found it wasn't so black and white. It wasn't just good guys and bad guys. They found 4 distinct groups. So you had your typicals and your highly empathetic empaths, making up about 1/3 of the group each. Then you had the classic dark triad group, about 13%. But then there was this 4th group, making up almost 1/5 of everyone they studied. They called them dark empaths.
And this is the mind-blowing part. The traditional dark triad folks, high on dark traits, super low on empathy. Makes sense. But the dark empaths, they scored high on the dark traits and high on empathy. It's like they have the same manipulative, self-serving engine as a narcissist or psychopath, but they've got this high-tech empathy GPS to go along with it. They know exactly how you feel, which makes them dangerously effective.
So that just begs the question, right? How exactly are these dark empaths different from the other personality types we hear about all the time?
Well, the biggest, most important difference between a dark empath and your classic dark triad type is simple: the empathy itself. It's like one person is trying to pick a lock with a hammer, and the other has a full set of precision tools. One is clumsy and destructive. The other is strategic and uses your own feelings against you. Yeah, this breakdown really helps clear it up. Think about it. A narcissist might gaslight you, but they're often clueless about how much it actually hurts you on an emotional level. A psychopath just doesn't care. No empathy, no remorse, period. But the dark empath, they know exactly how you feel, and they use that knowledge to make their manipulation incredibly surgical. And here's the twist. Because they can feel, they might actually feel guilty or anxious about it later. It's this internal battle that the others just don't have.
This quote from With Therapy just hits the nail on the head. They have the skill of understanding, but they use it for themselves. It's empathy for the sake of ego, not for the sake of connection. Simple as that.
Okay, so this is all interesting theory, but what does a dark empath actually do? How does this play out in the real world? Let's get into the nitty-gritty.
Well, for one thing, the study found they love using what's called indirect aggression. You know, like malicious humor. That friend who makes a joke that's just a little too sharp, a little too personal, and then says, "What, I'm just kidding." Yeah, that's the vibe. They do it a lot more than typical folks, but interestingly, a bit less than the traditional dark triad. It's like their empathy puts the brakes on just enough so they don't go completely overboard.
And we see the same kind of in-between pattern with a trait called agreeableness, which is basically how friendly or cooperative you are. Because of their empathy, they're not as overtly hostile as the classic dark triad types, but they are way less agreeable than most people. So even though they can feel for you, at their core, they're still wired to be antagonistic.
So what's going on inside their own heads? It's complicated. On one hand, their empathy seems to shield them from the worst of it. They're less anxious, less depressed, and can actually enjoy being around people more than the traditional dark triad. But on the other hand, they're more stressed out and harder on themselves than typical folks. It's like their empathy acts as a conscience, constantly reminding them of their own manipulative behavior, but it's not strong enough to actually stop it.
All right, so after all that, the big question is, what do you do with this information? This brings us to the most important part, how to spot these patterns, and, more importantly, how to protect yourself.
Look, if any of this is ringing a bell about someone in your life, the advice is pretty straightforward. Number one, you have to set firm, non-negotiable boundaries. Remember, they are experts at finding your vulnerabilities. Number two, you've got to put your own self-care first. Dealing with them can be absolutely exhausting. And number three, know when to walk away. Seriously, you are not going to solve their internal issues, and your priority has to be your own mental health.
And that's really what this all comes down to, isn't it? A final question to chew on. The Dark Empath makes us ask, what even is empathy? Is it just a feeling that makes us good? Or is it more like a superpower, a social tool that can be used to build people up or to tear them down? Definitely something to think about.